I know what you're thinking. Julia, this is a career podcast. Why are you talking about health? Well, because I've had a pretty decent health journey going on the last few years, and I wanted to share what a realistic health plan and goals can look like. This isn't about crash diets, no waking up at 5 a.m. I am not about that life at all. I am going to share what worked for us, why we made the changes that we did, and how everything keeps shifting as we continue to move through this journey. So, we are taking a very realistic look at health. Welcome back to Control Your Career. I'm Julia Toothaker, your strategic career consultant. This bonus episode is a little bit different. I want to share my health journey, the mindset, the progress, the very slow progress, I might add, the choices I made, the support that I needed, and then the habits that really helped me honestly like rebuild my energy and my confidence around my health and working out and food and all of the things. I talk a lot about habits in my book, and that's a little bit of where this is stemming from. I share a little bit of our health journey and how we built really healthy habits slowly. And because health impacts everything, right? Your work, your decisions, your capacity, even just how you show up for yourself, I wanted to share it in a podcast episode as well. So, my hope is that hearing the real story behind my progress might help you rethink what what a health journey can look like for you. And specifically, a health journey that doesn't focus on pressure or shame or even unrealistic timelines. All right. So, let's get into this. So, I told you a little bit about why I wanted to talk about this and why on a career podcast. But really, I said this like our health impacts so many parts of our lives. And I realized that I needed to get my health in order for myself and honestly for my career and the career that I wanted. And so for you, it's important to understand that a health journey is so personal and it's connected to so many things. It's connected to our capacity, just what we can and can't do throughout the day. It's connected to our energy. I've definitely seen an energy shift over the last few years. It's connected to confidence. My confidence has grown significantly in different areas where I never thought I had an issue, but apparently I did because my confidence has grown there. And then just, I think the ability to make really good decisions because you feel good, your head feels clear, you feel optimized to be able to make really good career and life decisions when your health is in order. I think another reason I wanted to address this is because there is so much pressure that professionals feel around their career. And then when you add a health journey on top of that, it feels like, okay, I got to push through. I got to do another thing. We got to keep adding, push through, push through, push through. And it becomes very overwhelming. And so I wanted to share my progress because I think the way that we approached it really allowed us to integrate into a life we were already living versus changing everything to accommodate the health, which I think that's what a lot of people expect to do. And I knew that that wasn't going to work for us. I think too, just in relation to career, we set so many expectations with our career and what we want and goals. I talked about that in another podcast. So where did we start with this health journey? So this started a couple of years ago. I had just turned 40. And I think when you turn 40, I think any milestone birthday, you start to think about things. And I had just turned 40 and I was like, this is not working. Something is not working here. And I knew that we needed to make a change and I didn't know what the change was. It's important to know that I am a child of the 80s and 90s. So I understand what it means to go through a health journey. I understand crash diets. I understand, Weight Watchers. And I went through all of these things and I've started and stopped health journeys and working out like many, many times throughout the years, not really knowing what I truly needed from a health journey. It was really like getting myself from point A to point B. So this decision, I think when I turned 40, I was like, okay, we got to do something. We still have a young child who's a boy who has a lot of energy and I want to be able to keep up with him. And I knew that I wasn't, and I knew that it was getting worse. And so I knew that we needed something. My husband and I had tried to be accountability partners for each other and all of that, but it just didn't work. Like our personalities weren't suited to supporting each other in that way at that time. So, what happened? How did we truly get started on this? There was a personal trainer who lives in our housing area. Honestly, he put a deal in our Facebook group that we have. And I said to my husband, like, let's reach out. Let's see if this could work. I think that we need some external support because we are not supporting each other well in the way that we need because we kind of let each other go. Right. And so we contacted him, met with him. We honestly just like loved him right from the beginning. We liked his approach. We liked what he wanted from us. And so it was basically like, look, you guys make the choices and I work with you along the way. So it wasn't this like, hey, I'm going to push you to do a bunch of stuff that you don't want to do. It wasn't this like, you got to get up at 5 a.m. and you got to do this and you got to do this. He's like, I'm going to meet you where you're at. And that's what we needed. Like, we needed to start slow and we knew what goals we had and all of that. And so we met with him and it just worked out. Now, there are some other things that are really unique to our situation that solved some problems that we had. So, one, our trainer has a private gym. In one of the towns here. And so that really helped because we didn't have to go to like a big box gym to do training, which I think really would have turned me off. We could bring our son. That was a really big deal for us because he's an only child. And so it allows us all to be a part of the process. And honestly, has been really wonderful for our son to see us going on this journey. And we've seen him pick up some really great habits with regard to food and working out and all of that we don't push him to, but he picks up just because he's there with us. And then there are some small things. Our trainer allowed us to bring our dog in because when she was having a lot of health issues before she passed, he allowed us to bring her in so that we could keep an eye on her. So just little things like that that really helped us and worked with our lifestyle. I understand how unique that is, but that was something that we needed and we were able to find that. And so when we're talking about this health journey, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but you have to figure out what you need. You have to figure out what are your barriers to entry to make this happen? What are the things that are keeping you from going on this journey, from making these decisions? And I think the way that he had his business, it was exactly what we needed. And it took away so many barriers to entry that we knew that we were going to have. And so I think that made all the difference for us. So for you, you would have to figure out what that looks like, right? So for us, it started with, we knew we needed external support. And, it came with our trainer. So not only does he do like the physical training with us, but he also helps with diet and just all these different parts of our health. And that has been really helpful because he holds us accountable to that. So when we started working with our trainer, we did have some goals and we started very slowly. Our goal was to work out 3 times a week. And mind you, we were going from nothing. So we were not working out. We were not doing anything. So we started with 3 times a week. We felt like that was manageable with our schedule, with our kid, all that type of stuff. So that was including our session with our trainer, and then he would help us figure out like what to do for the other days. What ended up happening is, we did the 3 and then I was like, I could add another day. And so a few months into it, I added another day. And then a few months after that, added another day. Few months after that, added another day. At the time of this recording, we work out every day, and I have worked out every day consistently for over 600 days. So huge milestone for me in terms of consistency. So consistency has been the biggest barrier for me when it comes to working out, really anything. It's very hard for me to do anything, any single thing every single day, especially something that takes time. And so the goal is essentially every day to move your body intentionally for at least 30 minutes. That's the goal. Now, most days our workouts are 45 minutes to an hour, whether that's with weights or, riding an exercise bike or going on a walk. So that's really our ultimate goal. But you have to remember, we did not start here. We did not start here. We started with 3 times a week. We started with really simple workouts to kind of build up muscle and all of that. And I think that is really the message here for this entire episode. If you don't get anything out of this entire episode, what it is figuring out what is going to work for you and work that into your schedule. So one of the things that we did that I think helped us tremendously is my husband and I sat down at the beginning of the week, so usually on a Sunday, and we looked at the week and we said, okay, what days are we going to work out? When are we going to work out? Now, you have to remember, we own our own businesses and we homeschool. So we don't have a traditional 9 to 5 schedule. If we did, or 8 to 5 really, if we had that schedule, this would look completely different. So I know for some of you, you have to get up at 5 a.m. to be able to work out just because of your commute and your schedule and kids' activities and all of that. So I completely understand that. I think what I want you to understand is you have to figure out what is going to work into your schedule the best. What is going to work for you and your family, and help make that a priority. And that's really getting everybody involved. So that's what was really important to my husband and I, was we both had to be on this train. If both of us were not going to fully commit, it wasn't going to work, because it really couldn't be I'm on the train and he's, waiting at the station. Like, that type of mental gymnastics was not going to work for us as a couple and a family, because then it would just be so uneven in terms of I need time for this and resentment and all of that, and we knew that we didn't want to have to deal with that. So we were both on the train, and that's why we started so slowly, because if you think about it, we have 1 hour with our trainer and then 2 other hours at any other time during the week. And so if that needed to be Saturday and Sunday, it could be, right? So that's where I'm getting to in terms of start slow and start in a way that's going to work for you. I do not recommend starting with, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. every day and I'm going to work out. You're going to burn out so quickly doing that. If you have to wake up, try doing it twice a week. Just twice a week on days where maybe there's not as much going on, or you just need a little pick-me-up, something like that. If you need to do it in the evening, that's fine. If you want to take a walk on your lunch break, that's fine. I think there's this idea that we have to go all or nothing with health. And I just could not prescribe to that. I had been in scenarios and groups and I'd done that before. And I was like, it just does not work for me, because it doesn't work within the life that we have. So even now, we work out every day, sometimes together, sometimes separately, depending on just our schedules and what's going on. But we sit down and we look at the week and I go, okay, I've got clients here. I've got a presentation here. So there are some days where I do wake up and I work out at 6:30 in the morning. Not my favorite. I try not to do that. But there are some days where I have to because there's just so much going on. Usually it's because I have like recordings or clients or something like that. There are other days where we've worked out at 8 o'clock at night because that's just what we had to do for the day. And so my point is, don't beat yourself up around, oh, I've got to do it this way and it's got to be at the same time and it's got to be that. If that works for you, cool. That didn't work for us. We had to make it work within our schedule. So we got up to working out every single day, but it did not start that way. And I think that was the best way for us because it allowed us to really build the momentum in a natural way where we weren't forcing ourselves to do it. And sometimes we missed. Honestly, sometimes we missed. Our trainer is really great because we can text him and he's really supportive. We ask him questions and all of that. Like, honestly, he's absolutely amazing. I will put his contact information in the blog post for this episode because he does do virtual appointments. And this is not like a plug for him. He did not ask me to do this. We just really enjoy working with him and he's so realistic. And we love that. He's been able to work with both of us individually and together. And that has been such a blessing because we each have our own things that we have to deal with, like health things and just how our body works and all of that. And so it's been so great to be able to work with somebody who now understands both of us uniquely, but then understands what we can also do together and how we support each other and all of that. So that's kind of the workout progression that we took. Now, obviously, we've built muscle over the years. And so our workouts now look very different than our workouts before. I think too, mindset wise, we have really shifted our mindset into the workout is a priority in the day. And so we make sure to fit it in and get it in. Whereas in other parts of our lives, at other times of our lives, it was secondary and it wasn't a priority. So that has really shifted over the last 2 years as well. Okay, I want to talk about our food progression as well, because even though like working out, moving your body is amazing, and we love that and we want to do it, the biggest changes for us and for me specifically happened with food. It's important to know, and I think I've shared this on other podcasts, but when I was pregnant with my son, I got gestational diabetes. So I'm not going to go into that whole story, but the TLDR of that is we had to make some really big food changes overnight. So we made those changes, and once my son was born, didn't have diabetes anymore, but was still at risk for it. And so we made a lot of dietary changes after my son was born. And we stuck with a lot of those throughout the years. So when we got to our trainer, we already were actually eating fairly well, but not as great as we could have been. So there were still things that we needed to clean up. And so what we did with him was, once we kind of got into a good workout routine, we started working on food as well. He was actually really impressed with how much water we were drinking, the fact that we didn't drink soda. We did drink alcohol, like maybe once a week, sometimes twice. We rarely drink alcohol now. That's something that we really cut out. But we also, if we want to, we will. We don't hinder ourselves that way. But there are a lot of things that he tries to get his clients to do right off the bat, and we were already doing a lot of those things. And so that felt really good for us. So for some of you, water intake is going to be huge, like upping your water intake, pulling back on alcohol, pulling back on sugary soda. We actually do drink sugar-free soda now. A little bit. We don't drink it a lot, but it's actually pretty good. So highly recommend. So the food part of this was huge. And that was mostly for me because I knew that I was going to not only build muscle, which is what I wanted, but I also wanted to lose fat. However, I knew that I did not want to be focused on the scale. I knew that I wanted to be focused on how I felt. I wanted to be focused on how my clothes fit. Even though I was weighing myself just to keep track of it, I was not obsessed with the scale. And I think for those of us that are wanting to lose weight, I don't know, that was really important to me to not get so hyper focused on the scale. I knew that I wanted it to be a slow weight loss. I was not looking to lose 50 pounds in 6 months. I wanted to build the strength and the muscle and just let my body kind of work itself out. So that's what I did for a long time. I lost 10 pounds really quickly, as you do when you start on this journey. And then in 2025, early 2025, so we were about almost 2 years, about a year and a half into, we're at like 2.5 years now. We were about a year and a half into this whole journey, and we had made a lot of food changes, but not a ton. I think we were focused mainly on moving our body and all of that. But in early 2025, we decided to go to what's it called? Like a holistic doctor. That's not what they're called. Oh man, I'm blanking on the name. It's like an integrated health something or other. Sorry guys, I didn't write notes for this. We're doing this very much off the cuff. But I went to like one of those like more holistic doctors that kind of looks at everything instead of just one thing at a time. And for me, my husband has a different journey, but for me, this was a huge game changer. I knew that something was going on with food because I just like my stomach was irritated. I had a lot of issues. I knew dairy was probably an issue, but we could not figure out what was going on. So they did a food allergy test with me. And then they also did a gut health test. And the food allergy test revealed a lot of not like full-blown allergies, but just sensitivities that I had to certain foods. So at this point, we were really committed to kind of going to the next level in our health. And so what we started doing was more bowls. So a meat, so basically like a protein, a vegetable, a carb of some kind. And so we started doing bowls, and even doing that, my stomach was still irritated. Things were going, I was like, what is going on? So once we figured out what the allergies were, I worked with them to kind of figure out what that was with the doctor. But then I also talked to my trainer about it. And he actually was able to figure out a couple of things. One, sauces that I was using that had, I don't even know what, like preservatives or something, or dairy was irritating my stomach. So we cut sauces, and that was huge. Then he also figured out that high fat meat. So if Danny, my husband, if he got like a beef that had like a higher fat content, it did not sit well with me. Or if he used a pre-blended spice, then that didn't work either. It had to be like whole spices. So if you think about taco seasoning, I can't use the taco seasoning that you get, like the McCormick, I think it's McCormick taco seasoning. I can't use that. He has to go in and put like the individual spices in because there's something that they put into the blend that does not like work well with me. Anyway, this is very nuanced. But my point in this was this journey went from one thing to another. So we started with moving our body. Then we like went into food and the gut health and all of that. I did not even know that when you ate that you shouldn't feel gross after. I didn't know that. I didn't understand that like the average person did not have tummy issues. Okay. So that's what we're working with here. So once we dialed that in, and I understood what I could eat and couldn't eat. And then they gave me these like digestive enzyme pills that are the most amazing things I've ever had in my life. So those digestive enzyme pills, they allow me to eat things that I can't normally digest well. They kind of help my body digest. So that's what they figured out was like in my gut, there was some stuff missing. And so those digestive enzymes really helped kind of fill that gap. But as long as I eat things that are kind of approved, then I don't really have an issue. So once we locked that in at the beginning of 2025, I dropped like another 10 pounds pretty quickly because not only were we moving our body way more than we had before, like we had locked that in like at the beginning of spring, but we had locked in the food yet again. And so that I kind of put myself into an unintentional calorie deficit. And so that allowed me to drop weight as well. So at the time of this recording, I think I'm down, let's see, I'm down 30 pounds from the beginning. So in 2 years, 2.5 years, I'm down about 30 pounds. But I've also amassed a lot of muscle. So I've lost a lot of inches. I do regret not measuring myself when we got started because I know for sure I have lost a lot of inches that I don't even think I realized. Now, my husband had a completely different journey. I don't want to share everything for him because it's his journey. I don't know, is that a HIPAA violation? But I know that he would not mind me sharing this because we talk about it very openly with friends and family. But one of the things that happened with him when we went to this more holistic doctor was he found out he had a thyroid issue and started taking medicine for that. And then he also found out he had low testosterone, like really, really low, which was shocking to everybody because on this journey, my husband had bulked up so much, like gained so much muscle. He had lost fat, like lost inches. Like it's been crazy to see his transformation. And even our trainer was shocked at how much muscle he was able to build with such low testosterone. So I don't know, my husband, I don't know. So we got him on testosterone in early 2025. And within a couple of months, his muscles like exploded as well. Anyway, moral of that story for men, make sure that you get your testosterone checked. That is something that we have been telling all of our friends, especially our male friends, maybe who are like a little bit more overweight or who are having trouble just like working out and all of that. Get that testosterone checked because that was just a game changer for my husband. And even understanding like the thyroid and all of that, we've made so many changes to our diet, to what we do in order to combat some of that. So all that to say, we have gone through this massive journey. And I know that I'm like sharing such detailed parts of it. But the reason that I'm doing it is you have to understand that this has been over 2.5 years. And it's been at a pace that we could manage mentally and emotionally and physically. And I think that, we're at the beginning of 2026 and at the beginning of the year, everybody's like, yeah, I'm going to start doing this. And you're going to start with, I got to change my food habits. I got to cut out everything. I've got to start working. And you make 30 changes at one time and it becomes so extremely overwhelming. And I knew going into this journey that if I did that, I wasn't going to stick with it. So my husband and I looked at this as we are making a lifestyle change. We are trying to change our lives just from the ground up in terms of health. And I knew that that was going to take time. And I knew that if we changed 50 things all at once, that none of it was going to stick. And I think that this is what's hard when follow fitness influencers or you see people even on weight loss journeys, which more power to the people that lose it quickly. Like I love that for you. That takes a different level of just mental commitment that I did not have, honestly. And so I wanted to share this because I wanted people to see that it doesn't have to be fast. It can be slow. It can be a slow growth into something that feels good. And honestly, we're not done, right? Like, we're not where we want to be physically. I actually think my husband is probably more so than I am. And that's because I'm realistic. So I had a goal to get to a certain weight by the end of 2025. And that was kind of my goal weight, like from the beginning. And I knew at the beginning of 2025, with all the changes, I was like, oh, I think I can actually make this goal. Well, things happened, life happened. And I knew at the beginning of December ish in 2025 that I probably wasn't going to make that goal. And I was okay with that because what I realized in December, I was like, first of all, sweet treats. Okay. And I love a sweet treat and I'm not going to deprive myself of that. I'm not going to overeat, but I'm not going to deprive myself of things. Like, that's not the way that I wanted to live. And so I knew that that was going to have its ups and downs. And so not only that, in December of 2025, I hurt my back and ironically working out. I just strained a muscle in my back. And so I wasn't able to work out to my full capacity for a couple of weeks. And so that kind of set me back a little bit. I also had a shoulder injury in the fall. And so that kind of set me back. Anyway, so you have these things that happen, right? Because you're putting all this strain and pressure on your body that it's getting used to doing. And so that can set you back physically. Right. And it doesn't mean that we didn't stop working out. So even when I hurt my back, there were things that I could still do. I could still walk. I could still ride the bike. So I would do more of that than using weights. And then once I, could use weights, there were certain exercises I couldn't do right away. So anyway, my point to that is this is a journey. There's ups, there's downs. I knew that I didn't want to deprive myself of everything. So I was like, you know what? Would I love to get to the home stretch of this goal? Yeah, I would. But honestly, it's not worth me basically starving myself during the month of December to make it happen. I didn't want to do that. And so that's where I think my mental health around fitness and health has changed dramatically, because I don't shame myself when I'm not hitting the goals, because I know that I'm going to. And I think that's the difference. I know that once we're past the holidays, that I'm going to lock it in and I'm going to get to that goal. And then I'm probably going to set a new goal. And so that to me is so much more important than trying to starve myself for a couple of weeks to hit this arbitrary goal that I have, right? Because I know I'm going to get there. And anyway, I think this is what's so important about health. And I know that this this episode's a little bit all over the place because that's how our health journey has been. We've gone from one thing to the next and we've had challenges and struggles and wins and all of that. And I think that's what I want people to take away from this. This is hard. It's frustrating at times. But we have learned to build really good habits. And I never thought that I would say that. And ironically, because I'm writing my book and I have a chapter on habits, this is something that I know I have to figure out for myself. And this is what I share in the book is habits are only as good as how you build them. And you have to figure out what it means to build a good habit for yourself. So I have a habit of working out every day. It does not happen at the same time every day, right? I have a habit of eating a certain way because I don't like to feel gross, right? But it doesn't happen every day. And so I move through the days and the weeks going, okay, I know that this is what I need, but if I don't get it, it's okay. Right now on the health journey, because I'm at that 600 plus day workout streak, I'm pretty committed to that because my perfectionism is kicked in. And so now I'm like, I can't let the streak go. So that's been really interesting because even when we've gone on vacation, like we went on a cruise in fall of 2025, and we work out. We work out every day for at least 30 minutes. And we pull back on it when we go on vacation. So we either walk or we do a shorter workout, but we definitely stick to that because it's a priority for us. And we've worked it into our lives, and the people that are around us know and they get it, and they support us in that. And so that's what's really good. But when we're talking about habits, and this isn't going to be, I'm not going to talk about habits in depth, but my point for this is figuring out what you need and where you need to start to make it a habit. So it was a habit for us to work out 3 times a week. It was not a daily habit. It was a weekly habit. 3 times a week. That's where we're going to start. And then we added a day and we added a day and it progressed, right? And now we're in the mindset of this is what we do. We work out every day and there's no shame and there's no like, oh, you're working out again. Even our kid knows, right? So he expects that we are going to work out and he honors that time as well. So we've really kind of locked in what that looks like for us. And so if you are starting on a health journey or you are in it and you're frustrated, whatever it is, like it's okay. It's okay. Start small. Figure out what support you need. Figure out what your barriers are to pushing past and getting into this lifestyle change if that's what you want. Some people just want to move their body. I think that's great. And so figuring all of that out is super helpful. The labs and the doctors and all of that came, a year and a half plus into this journey. It wasn't something that we did right away. It was something where we had hit some plateaus, or I realized that something was going on with food. And I was like, I got to figure this out because it's frustrating to me. And so that took us to the next level and the next level, so it's a journey that you are going to go on and it's going to look different for everyone, right? Okay. I think that's enough. I think that's enough for this episode. I know this is so different from my other episodes and it's been a little bit wily, but I just wanted to share. I wanted to share a realistic look at what a health journey looks like for somebody in their early 40s and, what we're trying to do. And I'll do another one of these later in 2026 with hopefully more updates. We'll see how it goes. But there's no pressure, right? I'm not pressuring myself. We're taking it one day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time. And we continue to make small incremental changes that are going to impact our health for the positive. Okay. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes. I've no freebies for this because health is not my area of expertise, but it is something that I am going through. Again, I am a career coach. So if you're finding this for the health side, awesome. Love that. But it is not my normal content. I do career content. I help professionals learn how to control their career. So if that's something that interests you, please follow along. But if you know somebody that would benefit from just hearing this breakdown of what a realistic health journey looks like, forward it along. I would love for you to share this episode. But thank you so much for joining me. Shout out to our trainer, Tanner. He's amazing. I will put his contact information in the blog post. Again, I don't get anything for this. We just think he's awesome. Thank you so much. And remember, you control your career.